scientific method clearly demonstrates that the world is 4.5 billion years old. I mean, do you accept that?
Yeah, you know what you're doing is you are accepting some of the views that are accepted in some portions of the scientific community as fact. Where in fact your grandchildren might listen to the tape of you saying that and laugh at you.
You want to bet?
Sometimes it's hard for a human being to study the ear or study the eye and think that happened by accident.
I beg your pardon, did you say by accident?
Yeah.
What do you mean by accident?
That the eye just formed itself somehow.
And who says it did?
Well, some evolutionists say it.
Not a single one that I've ever met.
Really?
Really?
Oh.
You obviously know nothing about the subject of evolution.
Or maybe you haven't met the people I have. But you see, you do understand. You do understand that this issue right here of intellectual arrogance is the reason why people like you have a difficult problem with people of faith. I don't communicate an air of superiority over the people because I know so much more. And if you only read the books I know, and if you only knew the scientists I knew, then you would be great like me. Well, sir, there could be many things that you know well. There are other things that you don't know well. As you age, you'll find yourself wrong on some things, right on some other things. But please, in the process of it, don't be arrogant.
This is probably going to be the most simplest one for you to answer, but what if you're wrong?
Well, what if I'm wrong? I mean, anybody could be wrong. We could all be wrong about the flying spaghetti monster and the pink unicorn and the flying teapot. You happen to have been brought up, I would presume, in the Christian faith. You know what it's like not to believe in a particular faith because you're not a Muslim, you're not a Hindu. Why aren't you a Hindu? Because you happen to have been brought up in America, not in India. If you'd been brought up in India, you'd be a Hindu. If you were brought up in Denmark in the time of the Vikings, you'd be believing in Wotan and Thor. If you were brought up in classical Greece, you'd be believing in Zeus. If you were brought up in Central Africa, you'd be believing in the great Juju up the mountain. There's no particular reason to pick on the Judeo-Christian God in which by the sheerest accident you happen to have been brought up and ask me the question, what if I'm wrong? What if you're wrong about the great Juju at the bottom of the sea?
Let me just quote you, if I may. The most unpleasant character in all fiction. Misogynistic, homophobic, racist, genocidal, megalomaniacal, sadomasochistic.
Petty, unjust, unforgiving control freak, a vindictive, bloodthirsty ethnic cleanser, a misogynistic, homophobic, racist, infanticidal, genocidal, filicidal, pestilential, megalomaniacal, sadomasochistic, capricious, malevolent bully.
I should have thought that was beyond dispute. The sheer horror of the character, I said he was the most unpleasant character in all fiction, because I regard it as fiction, of course. And yes, he is. I mean, he's jealous, he's vindictive, he's callous, he's cruel. That book. They were ignorant, they were desert-dwelling scribes. Why didn't he just forgive them? Why was it necessary to have a human sacrifice? To have his son tortured and executed in order that the sins of mankind should be absolved? Is that not the most disgusting idea you ever heard? Why didn't he just forgive the sins? Why did he have to sacrifice a scapegoat? Evolution, too, is reality. You don't decide whether to believe it or not believe it on the basis of whim or culture. The evidence supports it. Evolution is the plain truth. Thou shalt have no other God before me. Commandment number 2, thou shalt make no graven image. Commandment number 3, thou shalt not take the name of the Lord in vain. Commandment number 4, thou shalt observe the Sabbath. What's that got to do with anything?
I can't prove to you that Jesus is God. So that truth is mine and mine alone. But you can't prove to me that Jesus is not. So you have to stay in your little
You can't
belief
prove
system.
that Zeus is not. You can't prove that Apollo is not. Or
I saw Apollo, man. He was down there. He's not looking good. Now,
once again, I come back to the point. There is nothing special about the Bible. If the Bible has any chance of lasting, it had better stick with the King James Version, because once it gets turned into modern English, everybody can read it and see what nonsense it is. An incredible number of people think Islam is a race.
Yes. Oh, I've heard that, yeah.
Nobody can actually say for certain that anything doesn't exist. But I'm an atheist in the same way as I'm an A-leprechaunist and an A-fairyist and an A-pink unicornist. It sounds like a respectful gesture towards multiculturalism. Actually, it's a pretentious cop-out. There really is something special about scientific evidence. Science works. Planes fly. Magic carpets and broomsticks don't. Gravity is not a version of the truth. It is the truth. Anybody who doubts it is invited to jump out of a 10th floor window.
Let's assume I'm wrong, Richard. I'm wrong.
Let's.
If all the evidence in the universe pointed towards an old Earth, I would be the first to admit it, but I would still be a young Earth creationist, because that is what Holy Scripture teaches me. You cannot argue with a mind like that. A mind like that, it seems to me, is, well, a disgrace to the human species.
When I read the Book of Mormon recently, I didn't read it all, what impressed me was that it's an obvious fake. I mean, this is a 19th century book written in 16th century English, and it came to pass, verily I say unto you, and things like that. That's not the way people talked in the 19th century. It's a fake. So it's not beautiful, it's a work of charlatanry. It works. Planes fly, cars drive, computers compute.
It's an inductive argument.
If you base medicine on science, you cure people. If you base the design of planes on science, they fly. If you base the design of rockets on science, they reach the moon. It works, bitches.
And they applaud that, and if you say something about a woman who's forced to wear a beekeeper suit in the hot sun all day...
Oh, that's their culture, you have to respect it.
That's right, that's what they say. It's just insane.
It's just the one exception. Liberal about everything else, but then there's this one exception. It's their culture. Well, to hell with their culture.
There you go, Dr. Richard Dawkins. All right.
Show me the evidence. 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 The evidence. Show me the evidence. Show me the evidence. The evidence. Show me 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 the evidence. The evidence. Show me.
Go away.
Show me the evidence.
Go away. We don't want fascist crackpot. Thank you. Go away. Go away. Fascist crackpot.
The evidence.
Show me
fascist crackpot.
Show me the evidence. 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 Show me the evidence.
I'm not bothering with you. I have no time to waste on people like you. I can't make you stop. I can't make you stop, but when you stop...
The evidence.
The evidence. Show me the evidence.
The evidence.
That was a big wow for a small mind. Forget it. I have no time to waste on people like you. I'm not wasting my time on that. Next.
Thing here that, but again, there is not evidence.
Alrighty then.
Our philosophy at New Scientist is this: science is interesting, and if you don't agree, you can fuck off. I'm going to end by reading the opening lines of my book written about 10 years ago, Unweaving the Rainbow. Lines that I have long earmarked to be read at my funeral. We are going to die, and that makes us the lucky ones. Absolute morality. Most people are never going to die because they're never going to be born. The potential people who could have been here in my place, but who will in fact never see the light of day, outnumber the sand grains of Sahara. When I was a child, I spake as a child, I thought as a child, I understood as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things. The absolute morality that a religious person might profess would include what? Stoning people for adultery? Death for apostasy? We know this because the set of possible people allowed by our DNA so massively outnumbers the set of actual people. In the teeth of these stupefying odds, it is you and I, in our ordinariness, that are here. But we can make our own world. We can make our own purposes, our own warmth, our own affections, our own loves, and we can lead a life that's anything but bleak. Don't worry, I will be back.
That's biatch.
Biatch, is that? Yeah, okay, I want to enlarge it a bit. It's a little... LOL, and your website sucks ass, big time biatch. I don't think I want an absolute morality. I think I want a morality that is thought out, reasoned, argued, discussed. We live on a planet that is all but perfect for our kind of life.
I remember when I was in England, we were preparing some young English boys. They're from very...
Not too warm and not too cold, basking in kindly sunshine, softly watered, a gently spinning green and gold harvest festival of the planet.
Could you explain what non-random means?
Yes, of course I could. It's my life's work. Yes, and alas, there are deserts and slums. There is starvation and racking misery to be found. But take a look at the competition. Compared with most planets, this is paradise, based upon, almost say, intelligent design. Will you listen to me and stop shouting at me because you're gay? And you say, oh, we don't believe that anymore. We've grown out of that. Well, of course we've grown out of it. We've grown out of it because of secular moral philosophy and rational discussion. We are granted the opportunity to understand why our eyes are open and why they see what they do in the short time before they close forever. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
So you think the Quran is a good source of scientific information?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And you're the one who wants to be a doctor. Is that right? Yes.
You should kill homosexuals and
Exactly. We just had a rather disconcerting experience. We were just packing up our stuff ready to go, and he suddenly drove up in his pickup truck and said, "Get off my land immediately, I'll have you thrown in jail, and I'll seize your film." And he then said a very curious thing. He said, "You called my children animals." Afterwards, we worked out that what he must have meant was that I talked about evolution. He thought I was saying that his flock were animals, which of course in a sense I was, because all humans are animals.